History is filled with fallen empires. From Rome to Britain, these once powerful nations crumbled. Could the United States, despite its current strength, be next? Some experts worry about the country's ballooning national debt, struggling banks, and potential decline as the world's leading economic power. One key factor that crumbled empires is a shaky economy. When money loses value, inflation, or growth slows down, recession, the whole system can crash. Germany's hyperinflation in the 1920s is a prime example. Another danger sign is corrupt leadership. When leaders put their own pockets before the good of the people, trust erodes. The Ottoman Empire provides a historical lesson. Corruption weakened their government and led to its downfall. Finally, empires that neglect huge gaps between rich and poor can face major problems. When a large portion of the population feels left behind, rebellions and unrest can erupt. The British Empire's struggles with independence movements in its colonies were partly fueled by social inequality. Let's look at these issues in the context of the United States. One major concern is its skyrocketing debt. Just like past empires, this could potentially lead to a collapse. Another worry is the health of the banking system. If banks become insolvent, meaning they can't pay their debts, it can wreak havoc on the whole economy. This, in turn, can spread like wildfire to other sectors, potentially leading to a domino effect and an economic collapse. Finally, the US has enjoyed a major economic advantage by being the world's reserve currency. One major concern is the recent plunge in factory orders, particularly in January. This drop is the steepest since the pandemic shutdowns, raising fears of a struggling economy. Additionally, past instances of questionable economic data during recessions raise concerns about the accuracy of current information. The media often paints a rosy picture of the economy, but many consumers remain unconvinced. This constant barrage of positive narratives clashes with people's everyday experiences. Consumers are more likely to trust their own observations about the economy, the rising cost of groceries, the difficulty of finding a job, rather than media portrayals that may not reflect reality. Gold recently broke a record high, eclipsing the previous mark set in December. This milestone, however, received little fanfare from the media, which seemed more captivated by Bitcoin's record surge. Despite official pronouncements of inflation remaining below 2%, many people are feeling the pinch of rising prices. The question remains, will the Fed announce a rate cut this month? And more importantly, will they take action to address the growing problem of inflation? In 2007, the Fed's attempt to fix a financial crisis with lower interest rates backfired. It didn't address the core issues, and the housing market crashed, unemployment skyrocketed, and the economy went into a tailspin. Simply lowering rates again is unlikely to solve deeper problems. The flip side of the coin is inflation, the rising cost of living. The Federal Reserve, the central bank, aims to control inflation through interest rates and money supply. If they raise rates too aggressively to fight inflation, they risk triggering a recession or financial turmoil. Low interest rates can give the economy a temporary boost by encouraging borrowing and spending. However, this easy money can be addictive. If rates stay low for too long, it can lead to a dangerous buildup of debt, leaving the economy vulnerable to a financial crisis and potentially a collapse. We learned this lesson the hard way in 2008. The crisis was fueled by a combination of bad monetary policy, including low interest rates, and excessive risk-taking in the financial sector. A healthy economy thrives on a balance between consumption, spending, and production, creating goods and services. However, concerns are rising about an overemphasis on consumption fueled by easy credit. This can create a vicious cycle where people have to work multiple jobs just to keep up with rising living costs, often drowning in debt. Many workers are not earning enough money to cover their expenses, such as credit card bills, auto loans, and mortgages. The creation of new jobs does not necessarily indicate an improvement in the labour market, as many of these jobs are part-time and taken by individuals who are already employed in at least one job. The need for multiple jobs highlights the weakness of the available jobs and the inability to sustain oneself on a single job. However, this may not be sufficient, leading individuals to rely on credit and accumulate debt. The reality of two working parents often means children spend more time in daycare or with other caregivers. This can limit the amount of time parents have to influence their children's lives. The 1970s and 18s saw tax increases that took a big chunk out of people's paychecks. This meant a larger portion of income went to the government, leaving families with less money to spend. In some cases, wives' earnings might have mostly gone towards taxes, while the husband's income supported the family. Many see capitalism as a positive force, creating abundance and improving products while lowering costs. On the other hand, government involvement can sometimes make things more expensive and lower quality. Ideally, there would be more freedom and less government control. However, the trend seems to be heading the other way, with governments growing bigger and placing a heavier burden on people. Despite the current challenges, examples like Argentina offer a glimmer of hope. After years of struggling with economic issues, they elected a leader advocating for a free market approach. This president has implemented reforms by cutting spending, streamlining government, and reducing bureaucracy. Argentina's turnaround demonstrates that even after facing difficulties, change is possible with the right policies. Several countries, including Japan and Germany, are currently experiencing recessions marked by a decline in economic activity. These recessions can ripple through the interconnected global economy, impacting trade, investment, and financial markets. The health of the US economy can be affected by these global slowdowns in a few ways. For instance, when other countries fall into recession, their demand for US exports might decrease. This could hurt American businesses that rely on selling goods overseas. Many countries, especially during COVID-19, made mistakes with money management, monetary and fiscal policy. These mistakes included keeping borrowing costs, interest rates, too low, spending more than they took in, running deficits, and borrowing heavily. While the problems these mistakes cause are similar everywhere, the United States might be hurt more because its money, the dollar, is used worldwide, reserve currency. Mistake number 1. Super low interest rates. In Europe and Japan, borrowing costs actually turned negative. This means you get charged to save money in a bank. This was meant to get people and businesses to borrow and spend more, but it might have backfired. Super low rates can make people save less and mess up how financial markets work. Mistake number 2. The dollar's special role. The US dollar is like a rock star in the world of money. Everyone uses it for international business. This privilege lets the US import goods by basically printing money. But if the dollar loses its value, crashes, the US could lose this special status, leading to big economic problems. Mistake number 3. Spending more than they take in. Lots of governments, including the US, spent way more than they brought in during COVID, large deficits. This extra spending helped businesses and people stay afloat, but it can't go on forever. Running up a huge national debt can cause problems down the road for the economy. Why the US might feel it more? Because the US dollar is the world's reserve currency, mistakes like high deficits can hurt them more. Right now, the US can basically print money to buy things from other countries, but that wouldn't work if the dollar lost value. The US isn't the only game in town anymore. A group of countries called BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are trying to use their own money more and rely less on the dollar. The dollar isn't as dominant as it used to be in things like trading currencies and oil. If the US loses its reserve currency status, it would be a big blow to the economy. Importing things would become more expensive, which could lead to a recession.